do real estate agents market themselves? And do agents with similar personality profiles market themselves in similar fashion? These are the questions that my upcoming book, A Realtor's Guide to Marketing to Your Strengths, seeks to answer. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Shirley with Long & Foster Real Estate and realastute.com here in Washington, D.C. I'm here with a special guest, Cat Dobson of Coldwell Banker Elite in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And we'll be talking about Cat's real estate story and specifically about how she markets herself and what her preferred marketing strategies are. So Cat, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So I really want to start with some background questions so folks can get a sense of kind of where you are in your career and what your history is with real estate. So how long have you been licensed as a realtor?
Just under 2 years. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary. So still starting out, learning a lot. I've definitely been through some tough transactions already and learned a ton. So I think, the best tools to learn are through experience. So I'm glad to have a bunch of that under my belt and look forward to what the future holds.
Awesome. This can be a market that runs seasoned agents ragged. So if you've had some tough experiences, it's all to the good. It's all learning. And this is a business where you'll never know everything. So, if you're open to learning, this is a great position. So what was your professional life before real estate?
So I worked for the Navy in a couple of different positions as a civilian, did the commute thing. So I'm in Fredericksburg, which is about an hour south of DC. I was born and raised in the DC Alexandria area. So commuted up there for a while and it was a lot. So once my first daughter was born, I actually had 3 kids in under 3 years. So I decided to stay home. Two are a set of twins. So
okay.
I decided to stay home with them while they were very young, and then was looking for a career that really combined my strengths and hobbies and interests, things that I could use, all the things that I'm interested in. And that really was the intersection of all those things was real estate. Had the flexibility that I needed to still be a primary caretaker for young kids. And I had the ability to use my interests, which are like a lot of DIY projects. And I have a background also in interior design. My mother was an interior designer growing up. So I have kind of that ability to see the way that things could be. And I love sharing that with my clients as well.
Got it. So could you tell us like a little bit about your trajectory from when you got first licensed to where you are now? Like, why real estate as opposed to the million other things you could be doing with the skill set that you have? And were there any surprises along the way about what a life as a realtor would look like?
So I was interested in a career in real estate. We have a good friend who was our realtor, who encouraged me to pursue a career in real estate on my own. We, within the span, I think of about 7 years, had bought and sold 3 houses, and he was our realtor through almost all of that. And every single time I was the one coming to the table, arguing for pricing strategies, going up with comps and telling him like, no, this is the way we need to market this. Like, I know people who want to move into this neighborhood kind of thing. And he was like, you need to do this. Like, you're good at these things. And that's something that's really interesting to you. I was very passionate about it, and I love getting inside homes and taking buyers to see, different properties. And that's just, I love that. I've always loved, real estate and seeing houses and architecture and everything about it. So that was.
What were there differences between what you saw from the outside to when you actually got your license, and what it looks like to live day to day as a realtor? What was there any surprise?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I ran into was you are your own boss, right? Like, you're part of a brokerage, obviously, but the challenge that I ran into coming from the Navy and having a very set goals that were given to me, I now had to create those for myself, which was the difficult part, I think, for me. And when we get into kind of the personality stuff, that was something I flagged, that it was like, they do really well when they're given something and then they go do the task. And it's the hard part for me is creating those like task lists in the beginning,
Right.
especially
Yes.
starting out, yeah, blind kind of into it. I think that was surprising for me. The things I needed to do that wasn't necessarily being told what to do, so I had to figure that out for myself.
Right. For those of us who are good, we're good worker bees, but
Yes.
we need an assignment,
Yes.
and I think it is hard for us to figure out what is the right assignment to give ourselves. Once we to put that manager hat, we're great employees, we've got that no problem, but to put the manager hat on sometimes is a big transition for a lot of people. And I think for people like I'm an I just like you, and I've certainly found that to be the case. I've been doing this for quarter century now, and it's taken me within the last 5 years to realize that I have to direct myself, that it's not just go with the flow. And so to learn that early on is really, really super important. So you're in Fredericksburg, and so would you give us a sense of sort of the market where you work? I know you and I share an alma mater, Mary Washington College. I don't know if it was already the University of Mary Washington when you were there, but I know Fredericksburg pretty well, and I know that it kind of sprawls a little bit. So you could be, I don't know whether you're out in Culpeper or Winchester or wherever. Give us a sense of the market that you kind of is your comfort zone, and tell us a little bit about the challenges of the market. Is it a buyer's market? Is this a seller's market? And the challenges that you're facing helping your clients right now?
So I am located in Fredericksburg. I'm physically in South Stafford, so I try not to go much past like mid Stafford because I did the commute thing, as I mentioned, and it's a lot with traffic and everything. And so yeah, primarily Spotsylvania, city of Fredericksburg, a little bit in Stafford, King George area, and I did kind of go through the last quarter statistics, and even though it feels, I think like everywhere feels like it's such a hot seller's market, which it definitely is. I was reading your quota or your question on how looking at the days on market, and I was like, whoa, it's not days, it's hours. um, but I did pull the stats, and it has the average of all the surrounding counties is about 12 days on the market currently. So, or the last.
It's a very strong seller's
Yeah,
market.
yes, definitely. Very strong seller's market. Some of the obstacles that I'm facing are people who don't necessarily have a reason to sell, but would like to sell and take advantage of the market. But then they're very nervous to be on the buyer side and to be in that like competing arena where they don't necessarily think they're going to be the strongest offer, or just they don't. That's not something they want to touch with a 10-foot pole with their personality types and all that kind of stuff. So it's trying to encourage those people to list and kind of hopefully bring up that inventory a little bit. And going into summer, I'm hoping that it'll even out a little bit, but
Right.
it is a challenge for sure.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge everywhere right now. And I was just curious about like the Fredericksburg area, because Fredericksburg has kind of become like a bedroom community of Northern Virginia or DC, especially when the VRE started commuting from Fredericksburg to DC. I think that really kind of gave Fredericksburg a new lease in terms of being a livable city for people who wanted to commute to DC, and to give people an option not to get on 95 to get up there. And so I imagine that the things you're experiencing in Fredericksburg are the same things in Northern Virginia and DC in terms of lack of inventory and it being difficult for buyers in this market. And I think you nailed it when you're talking about sellers. They really want to take advantage. They see their neighbors' homes increasing in value 10% over the year. But then what do? Like, then you've sold your house, and it's legitimate concern that you don't literally don't want to be homeless to take advantage of it. So I'm interested. I was interested to hear about that. So let's get sort of to the substance of all of this, which is your personality profile. And so for those of you who don't know, when people participate in this research that I'm doing, I ask everyone to take the Myers-Briggs personality profile typing test. And so Cat turns out to be an ISTJ, which is short for introverted, observant, thinking, and judging. Or in Myers-Briggs terminology, they've assigned the name logistician to this personality profile. And so I wanted to throw it to you to ask you, let me take look at my notes here about the logistician personality profile. So what defines the ISTJ is integrity, practical logic, and tireless dedication to duty. So I wanted to sort of ask you, like, how much did that resonate with you? Did you feel like that represented, like, accurately represented your personality profile?
I think so, in more, even in like a more surprising way than I was expecting it to. I'd taken the Myers-Briggs back in college. Like I said, I was a psych major, so it's all part and parcel of that. And I'd completely forgotten what I even was. So it was fun to do it again and to go through those traits. And I did. I wrote down some other ones, just like those ones that you pulled out. Very practical, dedicated, reliable, hardworking. Yeah, and then I pulled out a quote that said, logisticians may need clearly set steps and well-defined responsibilities, but they're exceptionally loyal and dedicated and meticulous. And I was like, that is me in a sentence. Like we were talking about, I have, had difficulties kind of setting those set steps for myself, but I'm great at following through and have that kind of dedication and hardworking aspect as well. Meticulousness for sure. And then to tie in with those, there were some downfalls that came up that I was reading them and I was like, this is so true of me. Like,
Right.
the main
Right.
one.
No, we all gravitate to the good parts of our personality profile. But then there are some, like in different workplaces, there are some downsides to that. And I think we happen to be in a workplace where the introverts are not necessarily rewarded for being introverted, So I'm curious now, so please tell us a little bit about sort of what you felt like as you're looking at some of the negatives, how that resonated with you.
Yeah, so the main thing that I took away from reading through that was that the logistician type can be very hard on themselves and they can take on too much work and kind of struggle to say no because you feel like you're the only person who can do it. And I have found that to be true of myself. And I've been with great agents on the other side, but I still am the one who's like always calling, making sure they actually called and making sure, like not necessarily trusting their word on these things because I'm the only person who can do it. But, that's not necessarily the best thing. So I think I do tend to kind of do more than I necessarily need to in a matter of speaking, just to kind of, make sure that everything is actually being done. And it is, it can be very taxing, but I'm the only one who is doing that to myself. There's not people from the outside.
And I think the eyes do feel, especially realtors do feel a certain responsibility to go the extra mile for our clients because we tend to be doing the things behind the scenes that maybe people don't see. And so we chug harder to be seen. Whereas like a lot of people that I'm talking to over this research are like very strong extroverts. And so you see them out doing their job because they're on the phone and they're talking to everyone, they're seen. And sometimes I think eyes have to struggle a little harder to be seen, to show the value. Like, I know that that's something I've struggled with in this business is I'm like you, I want to do all the work, but a lot of that work that we do is invisible to our clients. And that can be hard when it comes time for them to refer you because we want them to know how hard we work, but we want to make it look super seamless and very elegant. And sometimes that can be, like you say, it's you do the extra mile, but quietly,
Yeah.
So the big question that I'm asking everyone is, in those moments when you wake up at 2:00 in the morning and you realize your book of business, your lead pipeline is not as strong as you want it to be. You don't have enough leads and you think to yourself, I'm not going to make my mortgage next month if I don't get some business fast. So in those moments, when you wake up the next morning, what is it that you do? What are the plans that you put in place to fill your pipeline?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question a lot. I think I in the beginning, I tried to do a bunch of different things that were very hard for my personality to try and join some clubs of things that I had like a mild interest in, nothing that I was like incredibly passionate about, just trying to like be in front of more people. But I found that with larger groups, I tend to kind of be more of a wallflower, and it was harder. And it took a lot of effort for me to
Right.
really engage, and it was so taxing, and I wasn't seeing the return on that at all. So for me, it's much more about one-on-one relationships, making those calls, setting up coffee dates. I found that almost everyone knows someone who needs a realtor, or just making sure that your friends know that you're in business, and taking an interest in connecting with people. And I'm much better on, that one-on-one kind of small group of people, investing time where with things that I really am passionate about, and not necessarily spreading myself so thin across a lot of different groups, but just deeply into one or two things. It just
Right.
feels a lot more organic for me than, trying to get out there and be in front of as many people as I can, because that tends to shut me down a little bit, being the I. Um,
Right.
but yeah, definitely, just sit down and set up those coffee dates and ask people and if they know anyone. And I do a lot of handwritten notes. Calligraphy is one of my like side hobbies, so that's a fun thing
Okay.
for me to do that I try and
Yeah.
incorporate. Um, yeah, so I think my business has been slow and steady, and I'm also the caretaker of three kids, so that has played a big part into
Right.
that as well, especially COVID. And yeah, we walked through a lot of things with this past year, been kind of
Right.
unconventional, but yeah,
So your instinct when those moments happen is to try to figure out ways to get sort of face to face or in contact with people. And so would you talk us through sort of that process? Like how do you decide whom to call? How do you decide whom to invite for coffee? Has COVID played a role in how you get together with people? Um, those kinds of like the logistics of it. If you could walk us through kind of what that looks like.
sure. So another thing to add on to that also, which I just realized I forgot, is social media posting. So I do
Right.
try to
Okay.
set up that as well. And I have found a lot of people who don't necessarily engage on the front side of social media will then later be like, oh, I've been like watching your posts for a year and now I need to sell my house. So just still be, maintaining that presence and being in front of people. I found that to be kind of an easy way as well. But logistically, yeah, I just try and visit with people. Like I just creating lasting and deep friendships that are not superficial for the purpose of getting business, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Reaching out to a good friend who I haven't seen in a while, and we try and set something up. Or, like I said, I have children, so getting together with play dates or school friends. Although COVID's made it a little bit difficult, but now that
Right.
the weather's nice, we play out in the yard, or we have a good friend who's a neighbor who just talking to people and getting to know them. Calling them up. I have had like a few Zoom calls. I have a couple ladies through my church that we Zoom once a month and, get together that
Right.
way, just because of the way things are right now. But yeah, for me, it's just been like those sort of localized small groups and those pockets. And I do connect with a lot of people through church and other groups that I'm interested in. Like I said, just trying to focus on really what I love and not trying to spread myself thin across too many things. But yeah, it just is sort of whoever can meet. I text some people and kind of set up a few things, and mostly just because I want to hear about their lives, and then
Yeah.
incorporate, remind them that I'm in business. And if they know anyone, and more often than not, they're like, oh, my neighbor just is, renting and needs to buy their house, or, oh, something comes up in their lives, or even later, down the road. Cause it's all about, like you said, creating that pipeline. So, we work often months ahead or ahead of where we are currently. So
Right. So you generally will reach out with a text to start that conversation, and then what happens? People will respond and say, "Yes, let's get together," or do you get on the phone at some point? How do you like set that like face-to-face meeting up?
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's we're I primarily, mostly my friends, they have pretty much all text. So it's just like a text and get together, we have a play date, or drive by things sort of where we just don't have limited interaction. It has been difficult, like you were talking about
Right.
with
Yeah.
the confines of the pandemic, but we have a lot of lovely like outdoor coffee shops here. And so that's been kind of a go-to. And now that this week for Stafford County was our first week back in school. So, trying to meet people with within the confines of those schooling hours, and just calling, texting them, saying, sure, I can meet, or no, I can't, or when can you meet, and figuring out a date that works for both of us.
And then when you're in that situation, are you like affirmatively asking them to remember you that you're in the business, or you let it come up organically, or how does that play out generally for you?
Yeah, I'm really bad at asking, to be honest. But when it comes up, yeah, I think I'm better. But yes, it for more often than not, they'll be like, "Oh, so like, how's real estate? How's like the market right now? It's really crazy." So that's the lead in right now that everyone
Right.
uses. And then I say, "Yeah, it is. Like, make sure if you know anyone, don't remember that I'm a realtor, and I'd love to help anyone." I kind of like throw in a little tagline there, but it costs nothing, and it reminds them that I'm a realtor. And then we sort of talk about other things, and they pretty much always bring it up and ask me my thoughts on the market, or ask me they heard their neighbor could get this much for their house. Do I really think that's the price that it would sell for?
Right.
Kind of
Okay.
random things.
The voice of reason.
Right. Yeah, or if they are planning on doing renovations to their home, that's something that comes up a lot. Like, do you think this is worth it if we're looking to move in 5 years? Or,
Got it.
just kind of being the source, and just having them associate with you with real estate. So then they're more likely to refer you or mention someone they know who might need your help. But in general, the answer is I let it come up organically. But I found that that's such a talking point of conversation that it always does.
It always comes up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah, reliably. But I think because people know that, and they're interested in my life as well as I'm interested in theirs. So we kind of do a trade of, what's new in your life? How's your work? How's your job? So,
Right.
um,
So for all those eyes out there who are maybe hesitant to reach out to get face to face, you would encourage them to do it.
yeah, I mean, I would. I do, like, it is hard for me to just call up like someone from high school who I haven't, had a relationship with in a long time. Like, that's not my strong point. I try and invest in people who I truly love and have a relationship with outside of business, and just talk with them. And it does come up because they're interested in my life and what I'm doing, and I have gotten a few referrals that way. And yeah, it's
So
just,
in do you keep do you make obviously you maintain some kind of list of people that you have at least phone numbers to reach out by text. About how many people are on your list of like your sphere of influence, say?
oh, well, people on my sphere of influence are people that I would generally like text to meet up for coffee.
Well, both. If those numbers are different, let's hear both of them.
They are. Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I probably have like 200 or 300 people that I have their numbers and I know them, or they're on an email
But you
list.
don't actively market yourself to 200 people
Right. I mean,
necessarily.
I pretty much everyone I know. Yeah, I have like automated emails set up that, kind of remind them once a quarter that I'm in business, or not necessarily that, but, here's some spring cleaning tips, or here's some,
Got it.
DIY things for the summer. I don't know. So I do try and keep most people that I know on that list. And, if they want to unsubscribe, that's totally
But
fine.
your list of people that you would reach out to for coffee is a
Right.
shorter list.
It's
About
just
how many people are on that
probably
list, you
10
think?
or 15.
Okay. So
So
very tight
yes,
kind of group.
yeah. So like going back to that, like just some very close friends that I actually enjoy spending time with. It's not like,
Right.
okay, this is like overwhelming to go and sit and do this. But yeah, I have found that they have just an interest in my life, like I said. So it has been easier to yeah, be able to sit down with them and send a text, and it's more natural and not like out of the blue, like, hey, you want me to, sell your marketing scheme kind of thing. It's
Right.
not, I never want to come off as like, the used car dealer, or like I have like a perpetual fear of that. So just trying to really incorporate those friendships and bring up business that in a way that seems very natural and not forced, because I never want anyone to feel like their friendship or relationship is for the purpose of business, because it's not.
Right. So you mentioned, I want to go back to like your social media, and you talked about that was as one of your strengths. So I'd love to hear about sort of what percentage of your social media postings are real estate, or real estate I call adjacent, like the DIY, the home maintenance tips. If you sort of a percentage wise, how many of the posts that you do are business related versus sort of personal related? And what are your social media platforms of choice?
So I do a lot of Instagram storying, just
Okay.
kind of throughout the day. And that is set up to link to my Facebook business page stories as well. So
Okay.
kind of like that's more my personal idea. And I do somewhat post on Instagram, but my main business posting, I do have a Facebook business page. So that's where I post things,
Okay.
200 people who like it and follow it and things. So I try and do something I've done fairly consistently is like a tip Tuesday, and it doesn't necessarily always involve real estate, but a lot of it is like, painting tips, or here's the best like top 5 paint colors, or like light bulbs that I found some really neat light plate outlet covers, sorry, that have night lights built in, so you don't have to take up space for your night light. And that was
Right.
like a big hit among parent people. And like, oh,
Right.
the thing. So just and trying to, and then I do incorporate tips like when you're showing your house, make sure you have a bag that has everything in it waiting by the door, so you can grab like your dog leash and the things that you need and chargers or whatever, and have kind of a station for you to be ready to show your house at a moment's notice, things like that,
Right.
that are real estate specific. But then I also do try and post a good bit about sort of what's going on in Fredericksburg. Like I just had a post maybe last week that was the farmers market started up last weekend. So just
Right.
a reminder of community events and things like that. They're rebuilding a bridge here in town, and it's caused a lot of sort of havoc to get in and out of the actual downtown Fredericksburg. And so just posting updates on construction and when that's going to be completed and things like that, that people might be interested in, but might not necessarily know where to find that information.
So you try to be fairly strategic about the kinds of things that you post, and when you post your real estate adjacent topics.
Yeah, I do. I try and try and make it more of a mix, because no one's going to pay attention if every minute I'm like, hey, here's a house, want me to show you?
Right, exactly.
That
Yes.
has no
But
bearing.
you do want people to begin to associate you
Yes.
with those tips that are maybe not real estate, but close to real estate, or real next to real estate,
Right.
so that they can remember you.
Right. Yeah.
So the final question I want to ask you is sort of well, no, I have 2 more questions. The first is, you mentioned like broadly networking yourself as something that you've done in the past. Are there other marketing strategies that you've attempted, that you've used, direct mail or whatever, that you used that did not have a payoff for you, that did not work or didn't feel right for your personality, or just weren't worth your time?
So in the very beginning, I did some door knocking, which, no one loves, but especially as an introvert, I was like dying
Yes,
inside.
I can imagine.
Quickly realized that was not going to be.
That's not going to work.
Or, I mean, I've met people who literally love door knocking and they love cold calling. And I'm like, good for you. You get those
That's
clients.
not right.
That's
Okay.
not where I'm going to shine. People are going to be like, who's this crazy lady who's like, can't get her words out. I'm all confused. But yeah, I tried to think about this, and I think that was the main one. And I did I hosted a lot of open houses for other agents, which I thought, would be a good way to meet people. But I was never really able to translate any of the people that came in to buyer clients or if they needed to sell their home. And I did reach out to them afterwards, and it was a good way to meet those people and get those contacts, but I never saw any return on that. So it was kind of like, okay.
Got it.
And I did find it challenging, especially if like a lot of people came in at one time, to try and, manage speaking with people rotating in and out through a house, and
Right.
sure I was connecting with everyone. But
Got it. All right. And so the final question is sort of, what advice would you give to a brand new baby real estate who shares your ISTJ personality? So what would be the advice that you would give someone who was like you in the beginning?
yeah, so I think my first tip would to try not to get overwhelmed. There are infinity resources and tools. It seems that way anyway. Like there's always going to be something new and the next thing. It's just like you're trying to drink from a fire hose. And I was warned about that when I joined. So I kind of had, this a little bit of that expectation, but it was very overwhelming. So I think my first thing is to just try and pick one or two tools that feel really organic and that you're going to use regardless of whether or not you're in real estate, maybe, and pursue those as those are your platforms, and those tools, and they're going to help you. And the secondly, really just be authentic and be yourself. It took me a while, in probably 18 months, my first 18 months, I was kind of struggling to be someone who I wasn't. And there are thousands of realtors in the world, but there are also hundreds of thousands of people, and they're all very different. And so you're going to gel with more people, are going to gel with you because you're you and not because you're someone else. And not everyone's going to love you or hire you, and that's okay. To continue to be yourself and own your brand, and focus on what you're passionate about and find your niche kind of in this world of real estate, and know that your business is not going to look like the person next to you, and to know that that's all right, and to play into your strengths, and just to be okay with that, and to understand that there's not one right way to do real estate, and it's very dependent on the agent and the personality, which is why it's so interesting to me. So it took me a while to learn that, to realize that my business and my business goals can be completely separate from someone else's, and my marketing strategies that work for me might not work for them, and vice versa, and that's okay, and that's right. It should be that way. So
right. I love your phrase, own your brand. I think that's like so perfect for what we're talking about, is that we each have our own brand, and we each have something to offer, and maybe what we offer isn't going to be for everybody, but we don't need everybody. We don't need all the clients. We just need some of the clients. And I think own your brand is like a really sort of seamless elegant way of saying to be authentic, to be you. So that really resonates with me. So thank you for sharing that. So that's everything I wanted to ask. So Kat, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story. And thank all of you out there for watching. My goal is to gather about input from about 200 real estate agents across the United States. I'm not quite halfway there. But I'm hearing so many interesting stories that I don't want to wait for the book to come out to share some of the good stuff that I'm learning, that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing from people. So do stay tuned for more interviews like this. I'll be posting on social media. I'll be posting on my blog. And if you're an agent and you'd be willing to participate, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. That's it. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Till next time, I'm Kevin Shirley with Long and Foster Real Estate and realastute.com here in Washington, D.C. And I'm never too busy for any of your DC referrals. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye, Kat.
Bye.